Dominique Samuels, good to talk to you again. Dominic, problem in the UK is not enough energy, right? And the renewable push has left the country light on for the electricity it needs.
Yeah, this is the issue. This is the cost of net zero, to be quite frank, and it's something that countries all around the world are marching towards. But in Europe, it's being felt quite acutely because of a lot of European countries' reliance on Russian gas. For me, I think that this is very sinister. I think it's chilling. And the leader of the scheme actually suggested that this being paid to use less energy will actually be a permanent fixture of our winters here in the UK. He says that will aid us into going towards net zero, and that this is much bigger than just a temporary scheme to offset the issues that we've seen from the Ukraine war, which I think is a massive concern, because we've seen now that our reliance on wind and solar energy has not paid off. In Germany, they have the same worries. Both for Germany and France, they've had to look at using coal-powered fire stations again because of our willing and deliberate restriction of our own energy supply, which is obviously costing British consumers far more than it should.
Yeah, it's national self-harm. We've done the same thing to ourselves in Australia, and all we're getting from governments is doubling down on this renewables plus storage push that no one's been able to deliver. It is literally madness. There's a couple of other stories I've got to get your thoughts on. One is these revelations about the British government, through its military, actually spying on its own people during the pandemic, people who were casting doubts, asking questions, opposing government policies on the pandemic. This is Orwellian stuff. And some of the bodies involved in this, organisations, the Counter Disinformation Unit, these are official government units. That is literally Orwellian.
Literally. And what makes this more sinister is that an arm of the army was actually involved with this. It's called the 77th Brigade. It's a digital operations group, I'm reading it now, launched in 2015, and its purpose is non-lethal waging of war. So this is non-lethal sort of controlling the narrative online. It's a digital operations group. So that means that we were all sort of subject to this military-grade surveillance that controlled what narrative could actually be put out there, and actually allowed our government to censor dissenting voices like Julia Hartley-Brewer, the Talk TV host, David Davis MP, a Conservative MP. What's also sinister about this is members of the Conservative government are also part of this digital operations group, the 77th Brigade, most notably Tobias Elwood, who is a Conservative MP, who I'm actually blocked by. So this just goes to show that we're going down a very, very slippery slope in this country. But thankfully, a lot of this stuff is being revealed, so people are actually aware of what's going on, because Majid Nawaz, who was sacked by LBC because of his views on COVID, he was saying this about the 77th Brigade last year. Wow. And there's only been a news story on it now. It's incredible.
Well, we've got to have more inquiries into exactly what went on. It's the same in Australia. We need a royal commission to look at this government overreach, because we've got to make sure we never see it again, at least not with some transparency and some accountability, so we know what's going on. I want to get to the royal family, your royal family. We share them. You know, the king, he's the King of Australia as well as he is of Great Britain. And normally the royals on Australia Day, the day last week, January the 26th, which has now been attacked by the woke. They all want to undermine Australia Day. Well, the royal family this year didn't put out a congratulatory message on social media. Normally they do. So they've just been silenced by the woke, presumably.
Yeah, this is the thing with the royal family. I'm not really surprised by this, because Prince Charles is, King Charles, sorry. He's, a notably different sort of royal. He really wants to make sure the royal family is, in touch with what's going on today. And sadly, the cultural, dominance of wokeism has, I think, infected the royal family and infected the king. Nothing that the royal family does is by accident. So this was obviously a choice not to mark Australia Day, which is a real shame, because really I think it stokes the idea that the royal family is irrelevant in places like Australia and Canada and other countries, which I don't think is true. I think a lot of people still want the royal family to have a role.
I tell you what, if not even the King of England can be proud of the day that England stuck a flag in the ground in Farm Cove in Sydney Harbour, then the gig is up. The jig is up for sure. It's just astonishing that the royal family wouldn't mark that day, especially just as a note of friendship and support for Australia. Astonishing stuff. Thanks for joining us, Dominique, as ever. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.